Prayer is an everyday routine for most students here at BYU Idaho, but what places are appropriate to do it and what places should you avoid?
Everyone has their different opinions on the matter, and tonight we're going to discuss it. When Rexburg goes to sleep, we start talking. This is After Curfew. Thanks for being with us tonight. Tonight we're talking about prayer, something that most of us here at BYU Idaho integrate into our daily lives. But what about when we're in a restaurant or out on a date? Is praying out loud inappropriate? So what do you guys think? What do you guys do when you're in public?
I usually don't have like an out loud prayer or even a silent when I go out to eat, just personally. But.
You know, I saw a situation where, I guess this isn't me to kind of redirect the question. I was at Subway, and I saw a guy, and he was on an obvious first date, and he just kneeled down and started praying, and his date looked really surprised. So I think it's definitely necessary to clear it with her first if you want a second date. Maybe he was praying for the second date, so I really should knock him for that.
Dude, the other day I was at Applebee's, and our friend's like, you know, she's just like got her mission call and stuff, excited, but like it was weird because she's like making us pray for the food. She's like, everyone's, and I was like, wow, I kind of felt forced into the prayer. I was like, I like praying, but I don't like being forced into a prayer, especially at a restaurant, because like it's kind of like a personal choice.
Right. And I don't know, prayer is, you know, it's personal and it's sacred. So like I do pray when I'm out in public, but just silently, like I just bow my head and just say it really quick, just something silent. I usually don't ask people like, can we join hands and pray or kneel down or anything like that. But I don't know, it can kind of be a heated topic. Like I've talked to people who say that, you know, they've been out with people who make everyone in the restaurant be quiet for a couple minutes as they pray or whatever. It's like, I don't know, what as Latter-day Saints trying to be a good example, is that a good example, or does that just serve to annoy society more?
I think that would annoy society, making the whole restaurant be quiet. You know, if you called in advance and said that you were in fact a Latter-day Saint and you'd be praying and they needed to shut down between 7:05 and 7:07. I think that would be, you know, that's an extreme example, but you know, doing something like that, I think there's not a lot of argument that would do more harm than good.
Well, I think even then, like the sacredness of prayers is almost kind of diminished where you're not appropriately applying it. I kind of think that if you're making this big show of it, it's almost hypocritical.
Right.
Pray to be seen of others and do it in front of windows and stuff. But like, yeah, sometimes like it's kind of actually cool because like you definitely do it in public, but it's kind of nice. Like when I was in high school, we had a group of people that would get together and pray before school started every day, and they weren't doing it to like show off to other people. It didn't come off like that. They just, you know, they thought it was a good way to start the day, or like school. So they would just have a circle and pray. And I was like, you know, that's pretty cool.
And I think one thing that kind of makes me think about is, I know like back in the day they had prayer in schools, and when I heard that I was like, whoa, that's pretty over the top. But it was because I'd never experienced that, and so until I came to BYU Idaho, I was like, whoa, this is actually kind of a good way to start. So. Right. So I mean, and there's two sides of it. I think as long as you're respectful, not just to those around you, but to who you're praying to in the first place.
I kind of have a question though. I don't understand, I guess it might just be a personal thing, but I don't understand how it's such a touchy subject. I come from a Pentecostal background before I converted to the LDS church, and I was used to prayer meetings. I was used to praying out loud. I was used to these huge, loud things, and I wouldn't go as far as to say we were trying to be seen of men. It was, you know, our hearts were good, that we just felt that was what we had to do. And then when I converted over, it's almost like prayer is hush-hush, and like we don't really, it's almost like we just want to keep things secret. How is that spreading the gospel at all? Like, I just have a question on why we have to be so secretive about something like that if our hearts have good intent.
I think there's definitely a balance to it. It's like you said with, you know, prayers in schools. Like I think that would be actually a really good thing now, but the thing is I hadn't experienced that ever. I had no clue what that was like. It seemed foreign because it never happened. Whereas, you know, the older generations can say, oh, it was such a great thing, and then they, took it away. Well, until you experience it, I guess, there's that disconnect.
Is the problem praying out loud? What's the real problem here? Is it making others uncomfortable?
Well, yeah, I think it could be making others uncomfortable. It depends, because like you said, as far as hush, hush, if you're walking through the crossroads and somebody's praying out loud and they're really talking, you kind of feel like, so should I turn off my iPod? And, should I pay respect? It kind of draws people in whether they like it or not in certain situations, depending on how loud they are.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so how about we hear from you now? We've said our piece. Dave Martinson here and reporter Levi Christiansen went out earlier today to see what you think about praying in public. So let's take a look.
I think praying in public is just fine. My fiance and I, whenever we go to a restaurant, we do pray in public. We just have our own little prayer over our meal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because it's I don't think you should be ashamed of your religion, I guess. And it's a little bit strange, when you're not at school. I think at school people expect it almost, or they don't think it's out of place because they know exactly what you're doing. But in other places, other areas, I think it's a little bit different, because people don't usually see that. But
I pray to myself usually, unless I'm with my family, and then I pray out loud with them.
You don't have to be out loud and vocal about your prayer, but a good bow your head and say your prayer. I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, this is a country of freedom of religion, so if they feel that is important in their religion or whatever it may be, I think it would be fine. So that's my personal opinion.
Well, thanks for staying up with us tonight. Join us again in 2 weeks right here, where we talk about real issues that matter. Have a really good night.